Okay, let's talk about the transfers that we expect to see in the Premier League over the course of the next 24 hours. You're the man who's going to be on duty tomorrow, deadline day. Special show with Jim White, 6:30 tomorrow. talkSPORT, definitely the place to be to follow all the action. This man's broken more stories than Kevin's broken windows in back gardens with free kicks. Let's talk Martinez first of all, Emi
Mm.
Martinez, because that's the big story as we sit here on Sunday night. Because when asked about what's going to happen with his goalkeeper, he was rather fiery, Unai Emery, in a
Yeah.
pre-match interview. He was asked the reason for his absence in the team against Crystal Palace. He said, Marco Bizot. He was asked, where is Emi Martinez? He said, Marco Bizot. He was asked, who will be your future goalkeeper? He says, Marco Bizot. He's obviously upset about the fact that Emi Martinez is on the verge of a move somewhere.
Or certainly that Martinez has had his head turned. I think speaking to sources close to Aston Villa, Unai Emery felt that maybe Martinez wasn't fully committed for this game. Obviously, the backup goalkeeper's come in and conceded a penalty, and they've been on the end of a hiding, so that won't improve his mood. But this has come somewhat out the blue. Manchester United were interested in Emi Martinez earlier in the summer. Then it went very quiet, and you may remember after the Arsenal game, United sources were telling me that the goalkeeper wasn't a priority position heading into the last couple of weeks of the window. Clearly, something has changed. They stepped up talks with Senny Lammers, the young Belgian at Royal Antwerp, but that one has gone a bit cold in the last 24 hours, 48 hours or so. And they're certainly exploring a move for Martinez, whether that's a loan deal or a permanent transfer. It remains to be seen. But I was told they won't sign both Martinez and Lammers. So I think we're going to get an idea here of what direction the club wants to go in. Lammers is obviously a young, up and coming goalkeeper. Martinez at the different stage of his career, the opposite end of the spectrum, if you like, but he's a World Cup winner. He's a self proclaimed best goalkeeper in the world. He's won that award as well. I think most Manchester United fans probably would prefer to go down the experience route because they've taken a punt on outside Bayern Deer and to a certain extent Andre Onana, and it's not really worked for them.
Kevin, as a manager, can you understand Unai Emery's frustrations?
Yeah, I can understand it, but I think you only have to look at the end of last season, and it was all circulating then with the Man United rumours. So for it to go to the last day is it seems a bit strange for me. I must admit it's he was crying, walking around the pitch at the end of the season. It seemed that he was going to leave. So for it to get to this point, and you think that it's going to happen, that's where the frustration probably comes with Unai, because he probably knew that he was one who was going to leave, and then you get to the end of the window, and you're thinking he ain't going to go, and then you get to your game today, and all of a sudden he's not there. So yeah, it's a strange one for me. I must admit, from looking from out to in, it's a really strange one, but something which I'm not surprised by, because from last season going into this season, uh, I thought he was not going to be an Aston Villa player.
He's always thought that he could be a number one goalkeeper at a big club. He played for Arsenal in an FA Cup final, made a move after that. Obviously, has won the World Cup with Argentina. Fancies his chances now and possibly at Manchester United. Interesting, though, in the same game, you have a scenario where Emi Martinez isn't going to play because he might be on the verge of a move. There's so much speculation about Marc Guehi, yet he plays in the game tonight and scores one of the best goals that we'll see this season, Crook.
Yeah, and sometimes the fates just align, don't they? Because it's not every day of the week that Marc Guehi pops up with a 20-yard screamer into the top corner. You wonder if that is his parting gift to Crystal Palace fans who were singing his name all night as well and singing about him going up to lift the FA Cup, obviously as Palace captain. I think Oliver Glasner is still loath to lose him. We were at Anfield, obviously, today, and Liverpool kept a clean sheet. It was a better defensive performance, but Konate went down injured toward the end, really exposing their lack of options in the centre-back area. So I do expect this deal to get done, even though Gay played for Palace. And I think when you look at the Alexander Isak situation, Johan Wissa, who obviously released a bombshell statement this morning, Martinez's head not right to play for Villa. I think you've got to praise Gay for being professional, doing his job and delivering for the team. And actually, Eberici Eze did the same right up to the last minute as well. So that tells me the culture at Crystal Palace is very, very good.
Yeah, and Oliver Glasner needs probably giving a big pat on the back for that. And another great performance by his team tonight. And actually, they were under the cosh. They were sitting back. Guehi takes matters into his own hands. The game completely changes and they get over the line again. They were the better team in the first half. They weathered a bit of a storm and they did well to get all 3 points. A bad start to the season, though, for Aston Villa. We're going to the international break, second bottom in the Premier League. And you don't sort of need that pressure. And I sort of suggested to you, I thought there might be a bit of a disappointment this year because I wonder whether or not there's a bit of a hangover, actually. And Kevin, you might be able to answer this. If your team get into the Champions League, all of a sudden everybody is bubbling hot. Their bonuses are paid. The ambition is realised. Everybody wants to go on an adventure with you again. You have 2 consecutive seasons in the Champions League. It can be transformational for your football club. But if you miss out and all of a sudden you find yourself back in the Europa League, or it's not as sexy as maybe playing in the Champions League, you haven't got your Champions League bonuses, they don't have the budget that you would expect them to have. Things change, morale changes, and heads dip a little, don't they?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. When the problem what you have, Sam, is that you get these players in, and he took a punt, didn't he? Getting Rashford in last year. I think there's a major worry for Villa in terms of PSR, and I think that's why that's probably happened. So for me, this is going to be a big season to see what Villa do and where they end up, because there's it just doesn't seem that everything's happy at the minute. Unai is obviously upset about losing Emery now, but the fact of what's going to happen now from now till the end of the season is a big thing for me. I'm looking forward to seeing where they end up at the end of the season, and if he can do what he's done at previous clubs and go and win the Europa League and gain that money again, because when you're in that Europa League, you only get to the money when you get to the latter stages, and I think that's what they'll be expecting.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting listening to Alan Pardew actually on the way home from Liverpool tonight. At halftime, he was saying, you might not know, because not everything is always reported, that there might be, with 24 hours to go before the deadline, not just Emi Martinez making moves to try and get out of Aston Villa. There might be 3 or 4 players that are doing that